Welcome to the new ID Polo GTI. So yes, it's finally been announced. So the first GTI sort of model in electric form. So I've been given a bit of information just before the embargo date. So this is today, 15th of May. It's been announced and released. It's actually been released at sort of like the 24-hour Nürburgring. Yeah, and I'm going to go over sort of like the initial highlights of this car. So the initial sort of parts is it's 226 PS, 166 kilowatts, so 0 from a front wheel drive. It's going to start from just under 39,000 euros, which converted into pounds, because people in the UK, is just under 34,000 pounds. It has a range of 424 kilometers, which is about 263 miles. That's kind of like the highlights, and that comes from the 52 kilowatt battery essentially. I mean, it weighs just over sort of like 1,540 kilograms, and as you can see on film, that is what it looks like. That car is in Tornado Red, one of quite a few cool colours. They've even got like Oyster Silver Metallic back, which is nice. A few highlights on that front. It's all part of their new MEB Plus platform. It comes with adapted DCC chassis. I believe that's a standard now, which is all tweaked to make it obviously more GTI and sporty. And I'm really curious to know what this car is going to be like to drive with. It's going to compete with the likes of, say, like the Alpine A290 GTS, I think. This car has 19-inch wheels, which is pretty big for a Polo. It's got the IQ LED matrix lights. I'm sure there's going to be sort of plenty of options to kind of come from it. But it's sort of like a new era of GTI. That's what it's all about, the ID Polo GTI. I did see sort of like a concept before a few years ago, but now it's going to come into production. It's going to start in Germany in the autumn. In terms of it going on sale, I'm not too sure about like the rest of the world, but obviously this is it starting. And yeah, I've shared the ID Polo itself and some of the sort of like the practical elements and some of the cool stuff about it. I guess I'm quite curious, 0-66.8 doesn't sound too fast. I thought it would be a little bit quicker than that, but I guess it's potentially because of a little bit of the weight and because it's front wheel drive, which nothing wrong with that. It makes it a little bit more dynamic with being front wheel drive, but the natural weight of an electric car. So I'm interested to know how it drives. It's got 290 newton meters of torque, so I'd imagine actually sort of in gear, don't even know if it has gears. It can kind of shift. With the sports suspension, so it's designed to be more sporty essentially, which is understandable from a GTI, but yet usable. That's the whole part of it. They talk about a quick charging, 10 to 80% in 24 minutes. Which is pretty nice. All the new design tweaks, Andreas Mint can be kind of thanked for that. Him and his team getting it all looking nice. I like the standard ID Polo. I think this looks quite cool. It's sort of like it's in between. Sort of like this is when I spoke to them a few years ago. It's like in between a Polo and a Golf, which is actually probably the perfect size because obviously the Polo's grown because naturally cars just get bigger. We know we're in 2026 now. That particular car that you can see there with Tornado Red, the pan roof, I mean, that's going to be well over 40,000 euros. There's the one in, I think that's Oyster Silver Metallic. I'm not too sure. Yeah, it's got the optional equipment is going to be mainly paints. They talk about a new high-end Harman Kardon sound system as well, a pneumatic massage function. They talk about a premium sports hybrid, same as a sport with 19-inch wheels, so that's options to go through. Inside, you've got nice touches. They're sort of, I've just noticed the door handle is very similar to the new T-Roc that I tried, so they're really sort of incorporating it throughout. Top speed 175 kilometers an hour, pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, what do you guys think in the comments? Those seats look pretty classy as well. I guess for me, I'd probably want a little bit more range, but that's just me. I'm really curious to know how this is going to be received and how it's going to drive. You've got the infotainment again. It's off the new sort of platform they're doing now. They've got this sort of like rectangular screen, and then they've got the larger screen as well. There's no real sort of obviously like driving impressions yet, but they're sort of obviously sharing this has just been announced today, like literally. And it's in sort of electric form. And I like how the ergonomics of the car, so you can actually sort of fit everyone in it. Some sort of like the space that you can get around it. Price wise, I'm curious to know what you feel around that. Just under potentially £34,000 or just under 39,000 euros. What you guys think, and that's before sort of any options. The standard ID Polo is around sort of like the £22,000 mark. So yeah, this is obviously, I imagine it's going to be top of the range. I don't know if they're going to make an R model of it, but it's good to see the GTI back, and they're not sort of skimping on some of the badging and the names. They're really going all in. It for me feels better than like the ID3. I don't know where they're sort of going with that model. I don't know if this replaces it, but it brings the Polo name into into 2026. I mentioned the colours in sort of silver, the black, the red, the white. I think that's cool. Tornado red, candy white solid, oyster silver metallic, celestial blue metallic, magnetic grey metallic, which might be this car actually, and grenadilla black metallic. And it's going back to the GTI heritage essentially. It's a GTI through and through. That's what they're going to try and do. That's a big part of it. Not forgetting about the heritage. That's important. And until I get up close and personal, which I'd love to on the channel and to share with you, yeah, that's going to be cool. But very interested to know what you think in the comments. Is this something that would tempt you? Yeah, that I'll be very, very curious. This is literally release date, so it is exciting to see, and it's exciting to see what the new journey is going to be. They sort of, Volkswagen did sort of like the GTX models back a few years ago when electric sort of came out, and I never really understood it. It felt like a halfway house between a GTI, and I sort of drove them. They sort of had the power, but then they'd roll. A GTI is a GTI. Just go for it. Yeah, I mean, I'd like it to have quite a few things as standard as a GTI. I think DCC should be standard. They mentioned progressive steering. They mentioned the Eco, Sport, Comfort, individual profile modes, and the GTI mode. It'd be, I know in Germany a lot of stuff comes as standard, but for us in the UK, they often throw in options which should just be standard, really, particularly if the car's been designed around that. The retro display is another thing that's been added. The GT Sport steering wheel with clear buttons to actually use. Obviously the power of the car as well. And it sort of says, so this is how they quote it: 226 PS GTI electric drive. The drive system of the ID Polo GTI is a new design called APP290. APP stands for the axial parallel position, while 290 indicates the maximum torque of the electric drive motor in newton meters. Because torque is obviously very, very important, particularly in electric cars, because if you've got the torque, you get it instant. Obviously, you don't wait. In the ID Polo GTI, it develops a maximum performance of 166 kilowatts, 226 PS, and achieves revs of up to 15,000 RPM. So I'm curious about the whole revs thing. I don't know how that's going to work, but that's interesting. When the driver requests full power, the ID Polo GTI accelerates to 100 kilometers an hour in just 6.8 seconds. Other components of the drive include one-speed gearbox and a newly developed pulse inverter. Interesting. So again, very technical how that's all going to work. It mentions about that eDrive APP290 with a front axle differential lock. So very technical. New sound at low speed, so they've got some exterior sound to that. So that's cool. McPherson front axle on the GTI to obviously make it good. Torsion beam at the rear. Has carefully refined the lightweight torsion beam, so they're trying to make things lightweight. It's got progressive gearing, obviously launch control, agile GTI swivel bearings. So I'm just reading it all through. Sporty GTI tyres, GTI driving profile, stiffer anti-roll bar, sporty spring damper tuning, sports DCC, DCC control in detail, front differential lock in detail, quintessential GTI. That's your ID Polo GTI. So it's been announced, it's been released. What do you think? My biggest highlights are the fact that it's got, 226 kilowatts, so a nice little amount of 226 PS, 166 kilowatts, nice little amount of power. Range 260 miles, 424 kilowatts, kilometers. Oh, so many kilowatts, kilometers. I can't even get my head around it all. Price wise, £34,000 or over 39,000 euros. Let me know what you think in the comments of the new ID Polo GTI, a new journey for VW and the GTI. Are you in?